scheduled meeting of the City Council for Monday, May 16, 2011. And we'll start off, if we could, please, by asking for Ms. Harrison, if you would like to walk us through late items, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Add item 6A, delegations pertaining to agenda items. Mr. Brock Williamson regarding DP 720-5154 Fillinger Crescent. Add item 6B, delegations pertaining to agenda items. Mr. Fred Taylor regarding proposed new zoning bylaw update. Add item 7B, Mayor's Report, recognition of service for retired Superintendent Jeff Lott. Add item 7C, Mayor's Report, Nanaimo Street wins award in the Great Places in Canada contest. Delete items 2, 3, and 6 from item 11I, staff reports, property maintenance bylaw 1990, number 3704, 627 Sterling Avenue, 656B Kennedy Street, and 36 Nicholl Street. Replace pages 111 to 112, staff reports, item 11D, for a text correction. Replace pages 159, 160, staff reports, item 11L, for a text correction. Add item 17A, council appointments, ratification of social planning advisory committee members.
Thank you very much. And could I ask for an adoption of the agenda as amended?
I would like
adoption as amended.
Second. I would like to make another amendment. Move item 20A to the late items, please.
20A. Delegation, okay.
Delegation. Under delegations.
Thank you. All right, and
adopted as double amended.
Second.
All in favor? Vote is carried. Move into the minutes of the. Actually, we've got both of them. You're going to do both for A and B, are you, for the adoption of the minutes?
Yes, move adoption of the minutes as circulated as it relates to May 2nd and May 9th.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, the next is a presentation from Ms. Kathy Cook, Executive Director, BC Municipal Safety Association. And Ms. Cook is going to present the city with a Certificate of Achievement, COR, which represents the highest standard of achievement for a municipal safety program and safety management system in the province of BC. And is Ms. Cook in attendance? And then we have, actually, there's two parts of it too. So did you want to say a few words, and then I can wander over there and get the presentation?
That would be wonderful. Thank you. I am very pleased to be presenting the Certificate of Recognition to the City of Nanaimo. The Certificate of Recognition is awarded by the BC Municipal Safety Association and WorkSafe BC in recognition of your city's achievement in a safety management system. Safety management systems are not easy things to develop. It takes a lot of commitment in every level of your organization. And what it shows by passing the core audit is that the occupational health and safety of your workers has become a culture within your organization. Congratulations. It's a very good achievement.
Thank you. Make this presentation,
yes.
And maybe we'll even take time. And here comes our ace photographer. Did it work, or is there?
Flash didn't go.
It did.
Lots of light.
It doesn't need
flash. There's a lot of light. So congratulations, and I will be part of the next one as well.
Yes, you will be, and I just want to say that the maybe I'll Cam, you've got those 2 mics for now, and City of Nanaimo places the highest priority on the health and safety of everyone of its workers, and is committed to having a safe workplace as safe as possible. The city developed a comprehensive plan. Do you want me to do this one? Sorry, the city developed a comprehensive plan to become COR certified several years ago as part of this commitment. The achievement of this certification is the result of countless hours of hard work and dedication to safety, and the participation of our safety program. The participation of every city department and their staff. With the entire city pulling together, helping to expand and improve our safety program, there came a sense of pride and teamwork that we were told was totally amazed by the COR auditors and allowed us to achieve this successful outcome. So thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll be up for the next one as well.
I'll take one, Cam. You can hang on to the other there.
Bestwick has a question.
Councillor Holden just asked me a question I'm unable to answer. You want to know whether this will reduce our WCB premiums. And
Excuse me, Your Worship.
yes,
You will receive a 10% rebate on
Wonderful.
your WorkSafe BC assessments.
thank you. Thank you very much, you say. Well done. And now we have Ms. Kathy Cook again, Executive Director, BC Municipal Safety Association, and Dr. Dave Basley, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Executive Director of the BC Common Ground Alliance, to present the city with the City of Excellent Award to recognize local governments for activities that improve ground disturbance, safe evacuation techniques, and best practice in and around the underground infrastructure. So, maybe I'll,
Come on over again.
what we will do is think it's sort of...
Your Worship, Council, thanks again for, it's a big night for you guys. Awards on the award front. So I'll just say really quickly about this award, and we'll just show it out to the crowd there, and out to the, very nice. It's a second annual award. It's in recognition of the work that you guys have done around ground disturbance and protection of your underground infrastructure, and is the gold standard here in the province of British Columbia. And you heated competition this year, and last year was Metro Vancouver. So I'm pleased to say, congratulations to the City of Nanaimo for the wonderful work that you guys have done around this piece, and to give you the award on behalf of our organizations. And the sponsors of the award here are we have the Municipal Safety Association, of course, Safety Authority, the BC Common Ground Alliance, the BC Construction Safety Association, and WorkSafe BC. And you won't get 10% off on your premiums. But you have this wonderful, nice matte black, and we just want to congratulate you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. There we go.
Beautiful. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Wonderful.
Now, where do you want this?
Well, we'll maybe leave this with Toby here.
Got a handful of awards.
This is...
Here you go.
Hello.
Well, thank you very much. But these are very prestigious awards, and on behalf of City Council, I just want to say that we are truly honored to receive them, and it does reflect the effort that goes in by our staff in ensuring the safety of the city and all of the workers in it. And again, thank you very much. No reductions on the last one. Did you kill this one? And so the delegations pertaining to agenda items. Sorry. Yes.
I want to specifically to thank Council for funding the safety programs as part of our budget. And I'd also like to fund the two staff members who were instrumental in working with all the city staff to achieve these. That's Rick Croker and Jason Duchak.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Yes. Well, please, just leap in there.
Your Worship, I just think with this safety awards and the things that are going on in Slave Lake today, it's a good reminder to me that safety programs like this are important for our community. Looking in the future, I think Slave Lake is having one heck of a time now. A good portion of the community gone. But these type of programs lead to community safety, and I absolutely support them. And I think it's we have to look at helping our other neighbors too. So,
thank you, Councillor. Good. Very good point. Now we have delegates and pertaining to agenda items. Councillor Unker, did you have something on that you were going to discuss? You're on my list here.
Nope.
Okay, you're now off my list. So delegation pertaining to agenda up to 10 minutes. Mr. Brock Williamson, 30888 Barons Road, regarding development permit DP 720 for 5154 Fillinger Crescent. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Yes, my name is Brock Williamson. I'm here with the owner of that particular DP, Mr. Wayne Overton. We're available to answer any questions should you have them. We've reviewed the staff report and we're in concurrence with it. And that's really all I'm here for. Okay,
that's the fastest 10 minutes we've had all night. That was at. We don't actually have any questions that I can see, but I think staff council is quite pleased with the information we received. Thank you, sir.
We're here should you have any.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next delegation pertaining to agenda items is Mr. Fred Taylor, 204 Emery Way. Mr. Taylor?
Mayor Rattan and council members. Our zoning bylaw 4000 has an ongoing basis been updated, consolidated, and in my opinion, a very friendly, understandable document. I remain of the opinion to rewrite the zoning bylaw with the idea of reinforcing our official community plan, establishes our OCP of more than a guide for decision-making on planning and land management issues. As the proposed bylaw states, a need to update the zoning bylaw to ensure that it reflects the goals of the OCP. The Local Government Act, Section 890 states, number 4, a local government may waive the holding of a public hearing on a proposed bylaw if an official community plan is in effect for that area and is subject to the proposed zoning bylaw, and the proposed bylaw is consistent with the plan. I would say goodbye public neighborhood involvement. The OCP may no longer be a guide under what I read in the Local Government Act. This new bylaw is how we conquer neighborhood for the developer. No public hearing if it's consistent with the OCP. Yes, our OCP does encourage higher density, but I disagree to rewrite our zoning bylaw, reducing the required lot size area of a zone, just establish a new zone as we have done in the past. There's not that many to do, and it gives the neighborhood an opportunity to voice an opinion. And Nanaimo never had control, on another subject in here, never had control of the height of fences until 1979, when a side yard, rear yard height of 2.4 meters was established. Today, the new proposed bylaw reduces this height to 6 feet. Staff use crime prevention through environmental design to support the reduced height, suggesting sight or open view being a deterrent to crime. And you can go on any website, the RCMP have got SIPTED, all kinds of people. They don't talk about that. I beg to differ, because they told me at the open house that everybody's got 6 feet across the country. You look up Vancouver, Kamloops, Kelowna, Courtenay, Qualicum, Parksville, Victoria, Duncan, Ladysmith, all have over 6 foot for privacy for their side and rear yards. I have personally experienced 6 feet or less fencing. Your garden disappears, your lawn ornaments disappear, lawn chairs, even break and enter has happened with lower fencing to me. I strongly believe and have reduced trespass with higher solid construction fencing. The only other thing I had to do was alarm gates. The adjoining property to Emery Way public tot lot has a 6 foot fence. I often witness strangers that visit the park going over and looking over the 6 foot fence to see what's in the yard. 6 foot's too easy to look over. I strongly believe and have reduced trespass if a higher fence is constructed. Private property is not always under watch, not expected to be lighted for night watch, etc., and needs a barrier to trespass. If you go into SIPTED, you'll find that you have to start constructing your buildings that have windows facing all sides of the property, which if you go and look at your residential areas, a lot of times your windows only face to the back and to the front, and nothing that's a standard viewing of other parts of the property. In SIPTED, that's part of it, to be able to see and overlook everything. And you don't have that. You haven't been constructing buildings to bring us to SIPTED and reduce our fences and everything else to say it's got to be open for everybody to see what you got. Crime prevention through environmental design mainly addresses public space, not private space. Crime prevention through environmental design, natural access control limits the opportunity for crime by taking steps to clear differentiate between public space and private space. And you'll find, if you were to look on the internet, you'll find that they'll even say use substantial high closed fencing between private and public. And my third concern with the new zoning bylaw is the definition of urban agriculture will be encouraged by allowing urban food gardens up to 600 square meters in all zones. The definition of this means the use of land on a limited scale for the growing, harvesting, and wholesaling of fruits and vegetables. I believe the word should be retailing, because you as the grower want to sell it directly to the user. So that would be retailing, in my opinion, not wholesaling, because the wholesaling you sell to a middle person, you might say, and they retail it to the user. And I believe, in fairness to anyone else that's got a home-based business, and if you're wanting to see something that started up as a home-based business, agriculture, some sort of a business license, maybe in fairness to anybody else that has some sort of a home-based business. And I was amazed to hear, going back to fencing, all about SIPTED and all this from staff, and I brought SIPTED ideas to the council in 1995, and everybody was looking at me, SIPTED. It's been around for a long time.
Thank you. I think we do have a question, Mr. Taylor. Councillor Holden.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the input on this zoning bylaw that's still in its developmental stages. In fact, at the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, some of the points that you were making were made there as well. So it's good that people are paying attention to this. I just wanted to clarify the first point you made about no hearings required for applications that are in conformity with the OCP. Is that the way you read that?
The way I read it, I'm no professional, but that's the way I read it. And of course, you're entitled to read it on the internet as well. It's the Local Government Act, Section 890, Sub 4, and it says local government may waive the holding of a public hearing if the proposed, i.e., zoning bylaw, is in sync with the OCP. And I don't like that idea, if that's correct.
Okay, well, sorry. If I could just... Well, let's get... There's a comment, I think, from Mrs. Swaby.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Mrs. Swaby.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not sure if I'm understanding totally, but certainly there is a provision in the Local Government Act. Any council in any community where they have an official community plan can waive public hearings for rezoning applications. What Mr. Taylor may also be referring to is because the zoning bylaw proposes to rezone more than 10 properties, you also don't have to notify the property owners as you do with a normal rezoning application.
No, I'm not referring.
But we are having a public hearing for the zoning bylaw. It's a bylaw that we'll be bringing forward to council for consideration consideration, and it'll go through the normal statutory process.
Okay, my question is, though, in reviewing that as part of my committee's work, I didn't notice anything in our new zoning bylaw that would propose to waive public hearings for rezonings. Was that our intent, or the staff's intent in there?
No, a zoning bylaw can't actually do that. It would be council's procedures that would do that. Any future changes to this zoning bylaw, if it's adopted, council could either have a policy to waive it because if it conforms with the OCP, or follow the normal process that we have now. Staff is not proposing any changes at this time.
But it could happen.
Okay, and then it could happen, but that's because of the charter, not because of the zoning bylaw, proposed zoning bylaw. So anyway, the other question I had was about fencing, and that has attracted a fair bit of attention as well. Not just for the 8-foot height limit.
7'8".
Pardon?
7'8" is the current range.
7'8".
We've had that for 30 years, and you're going to make all the fences for 30 years non-conforming.
Do you have any views about light fencing, such as deer fencing, that's higher than 4 feet at the front of the properties?
Well, I'll say staff disagree. And the reason they disagree, if you put something up to try and stop deer on your property, it makes the deer go to everybody else's, and that's not fair. I shook my head.
Okay, so in other words, you would support allowing higher than 4 feet fencing of a light nature, such as deer fencing, on the front of properties, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
I have a method that does that very well. Just one wire that comes on at 10 o'clock at night and goes off at 4, and it's an electric fence just like in a farm.
Okay, thank you.
My tulips, everything grow.
Okay, we have Councillor Kipp and then Councillor Bestwick. Councillor Kipp.
Electric fence under SEPTED?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I appreciate your input in the zoning bylaw, and what is your thing on lot size? Do you think that it's, now we're going to just small lots in one subdivision, all the same size, or was it that you like the idea of having a mix of lots within a neighborhood?
I think it'd be a mix, but when you automatically change the zone to a much lower area, which could result in some applications you're even abandoning the bylaw tonight or whatever, you could automatically go to the subdivision control officer and get the amount of lots you want because you're making the smaller size. And I think that should still become a question to the neighborhood surrounding wherever.
So that goes to my point, if I can follow up. So your concern with the zoning change is the fact that we may be lump zoning some property that would be new to a neighborhood's zoning, which in fact could bring in some use that they wouldn't want, and they wouldn't get a public hearing on that. Is that your concern? You want me to rephrase that?
Partially. It's sort of eliminating the public hearing if the reduced amounts fit the question. If I still think that question should go to the adjoining neighborhood, whether it's north end, south end, to entertain that question, because you have already answered some neighborhoods about density, and they've said no, and you're even abandoning their bylaws on your agenda tonight.
I appreciate that. That's one of the things. One further one. With these fences higher and privacy, will people be able to have clotheslines? Because you wouldn't see them.
Why not?
Well, perfect.
But let's face it, if you reduce the height of a fence, more people are going to grow hedges, which becomes an uncontrollable height to you people. It's a political football. You don't want to control hedge height, etc. Therefore, you're going to see more hedges to get the height, to stop the view and gives privacy. So why not give a fence that hopefully eliminates some?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kipp. Councillor Bestwick now, sorry.
Thank you, Bishop. I'll try to be brief. My question was to staff, and it was partially asked, I think, and perhaps partially answered. As it relates to our fences and hedges, the same thing by definition?
They used to be. This is one of the progressions. Fence heights and hedge heights used to be the same thing. So if you had a hedge on Bowen Road, for example, that was over 7 feet, in the past, we would bring it to council to enforce. But over time, that became an issue that we didn't think was, I think council didn't think was reasonable, and in fact, provides a different type of alternative for a major road for sure, for sound buffer and that sort of thing. But I'm not aware, I don't think now, under the new bylaw that's proposed, that they're one and the same. But what I wanted to further to that, if this helps, or maybe it won't, I'm hoping it will, is that many of these are value statements to a community as you change. Like if you look back 20 years ago, the heights of a house were much smaller, the square footage of a house was smaller, the size of lots was much bigger, like in Solera or Lindburn. And over time, there's pressure for the way people value their property sizes and house sizes. And this is a way to actually meet some of the development needs in the community without having to go through a rezoning application, is to recognize those needs and then roll them into your zoning bylaw so that they can be developed. Otherwise, you have to apply for rezoning, and it's time consuming and may not be in the best interest of the community overall, and is unnecessarily delayed.
Mr. Chairman,
sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to mention then that the second part of that statement that you just made wasn't relative to fences and hedges. It's relative to the subdivision approving officer being empowered to make the smaller lot size decisions without going to public hearing. Is that what I'm hearing you obviously say?
Yes, Councillor Bessig, that's absolutely true. But in fact, fence heights are also an issue that the BOV deals with quite a bit, or development variance permits. They're an issue between neighbors, so they are a community issue. They're an issue about visibility, and SEPTED, as Mr. Taylor mentioned, has been around on our design panel for years. But it's also an issue with street form and having houses as the streetscape and not fences. So it all is part of what your urban fabric or your community looks like, and they become value statements if that's what you want to do. There's no wrong answer, they're just choices.
Completely understand that from a holistic perspective, but we were talking about two separate things just from my simplistic perspective. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a 7'4" hedge, the proper height of a fence, which is included as a fence on Bowen Road, and I have it about 1.5 feet away from my fence, which is 7'4" as well. And I even have a side fence, which I worked with in conjunction with the city to develop a footing because of the difference in the landscape of the land on both sides of the city land and mine. But I'm amazed the amount of people that will come up and discover that the hedge is a foot or so away from the fence and come up and walk between the two to have a look at my yard. And then you go out to pick your rhubarb, and it's gone. All that's left there is the leaves. And then one trick of the trade now is you get a 6-foot fence chain link on top of, say, a little curb, which needs more than 6 feet to make it look nice for trimming your lawn and everything. One trick now is you get the open weave where it gives 2 little sharp edges of the wire twist up top. They'll still try to climb over it. So I don't agree with going down to 6 feet. It was argued in the bylaw 4000, the council turned it down, so.
We have one more question for you. Councillor Johnstone.
Just a quick one, Your Worship, through you to staff. How does the retaining wall factor into the height of a fence?
Included.
Can you have a 6-foot fence on a 2-foot retaining wall?
The retaining walls is considered a fence, so if you had a fence on top of a retaining wall, it would be the cumulative height averaged on either side at natural grade.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Some interesting point. Seconder, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll now move into the mayor's report here, and the very first thing, actually, I'm going to do this in conjunction with Councillor Unger. This is really to, on behalf of council, I just would like to announce that we'll be dedicating the 3rd Street Sports Zone amenities in memory of the late Councillor McNabb on Saturday, May the 28th. The event will take place in front of the Nanaimo Ice Centre beginning at 11 a.m. And as many of you know, the late Councillor McNabb worked tirelessly on many projects that resulted in the impressive collection of recreation facilities and programs that we all enjoy today. And you'll see on the screen an example of some of the displays that will be open. And I very much look forward to, as does all of Council, to celebrating Larry's hard work along with this, and we hope as many people as possible could be there on the 28th. And I'll just turn it over to Councillor Unger, who I wanted to say and appreciate the work that he has done on our behalf in shepherding this thing through, because Larry is a highly respected individual in our community, and Councillor Unger did all he could to display his achievements, and I thank you for that. And I think you have some comments you want to make.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think, as everyone knows, Larry was a champion for many of the recreational facilities our company enjoys, and he spoke often of his vision for a field of dreams along 3rd Street. On Saturday, May the 28th, the Sports Zone will officially be named the Larry McNabb Sports Zone in recognition of Councillor McNabb's commitment to the supporting the youth in our community through recreation. In addition to the dedication event, residents are encouraged to visit the Sports Zone to view 11 new sports-themed statues, like the one just shown, being installed over the next week. The statues will celebrate the sport and recreation opportunities available in our community, and especially along 3rd Street. The event on May 28th will include an unveiling of a commemorative sign, an everyone welcome street hockey game, and some brief speeches, and light refreshments will be served. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I do have a presentation that I would like to make to retiring Superintendent Jeff Lott, but before that, and I was a little bit remiss, we did move forward the delegation pertaining to items out on the agenda. It was Mr. John Marr on behalf of the Nanaimo Ballroom Dance Society. So, Mr. Marr, if you're in attendance, if you would like to come and address us, you have up to 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of Council, for taking the time to hear us today. And I'm thankful also that we're not dealing with floods and fires like some of your colleagues in other towns. My presentation is about ballroom dancing in Nanaimo, and we've recently learned of plans at Bevan Park to tear up the hardwood floor and replace it with vinyl, which came as a great deal of alarm, which has sent me down to here. This came close on the heels of another shock to our system, which was the sharp rise in rent, which we're facing at Bowen. And well, I'm sure he didn't mean this as an attack on ballroom dancing. It's a friendly fire that's going to hurt us just the same. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. I'm supposed to push this, aren't I?
Cam, do you want to skip ahead on that?
There we go. Okay. So there's the two main points that I wanted to talk about, was the rising costs and the surprise change of flooring, which came as a surprise because we'd participated in the consultation around Bevan Park redevelopment, and there was no mention of removing the floor.
Mr. Mayor, you're aware that it's been delayed for a year.
Sorry?
You're aware that the flooring issue has been delayed?
Yes, and I acknowledge that, appreciate that very much.
Fine,
it gives us time to talk about it. Oops, I'm going backwards. There we go. So the roots of ballroom dancing go back quite a ways in Nanaimo to the pavilions at Newcastle, the Pygmy Pavilion, the same way that the jazz history in Nanaimo can be traced back to this era. In the 80s, we had classes put on by Parks and Rec, which the Bowen Auditorium was provided for practice, and that became the Silver Slipper Dance Club, and then later the Nanaimo Ballroom Dance Club, and we used to split the admission at the door with the city to basically share the costs. And then around that time, the club also helped raise funds and donated equipment for the Bowen Auditorium for all users of the facility. We incorporated as a society in 1993 so that we could organize the Island Fantasy Ball. And as of today, we have between 150 and 180 members and a $100,000 budget roughly annually. Roughly 60% of that is on the Island Fantasy Ball. And we have about over 600 people attend the Island Fantasy Ball each year. I'd like like to also make the point that dancing is a health issue, that we extend people's lives and reduce risks of dementia as we get older. It's a factor for childhood development. It's a very good weight-bearing exercise, and it's accessible to a wide variety of people. So basically, increasing dancing opportunities will increase community health, and I would argue vice versa. So this is my statement: rising costs are killing us, not just as a business opportunity, but physically in terms of health. And just to illustrate this, we used to hold 3 dances a month at Bowen. Between the year 2000 and 2010, while the consumer price index rose only 22%, the rent at Bowen rose 140%, and there's another increase on the horizon now that'll increase our rent to almost $600 for a Friday night. And I'd like to point out that we used to keep Bowen busy on Friday night, and now the occupancy is down to 25% on the nights we no longer use. We rent another hall outside Nanaimo 8 to 10 nights a month, and only 1 night a month at Bowen. So 90% of our business has already sought lower cost accommodation. Just to illustrate that point, the lowest line in this graph is the consumer price index over the last 10 years, with the Bowen rent and our admission fees pegged at the 100 in year 2000, just to show you how dramatic the costs are increasing at Bowen compared to our other costs. Another main point I wanted to make is that hardwood is as important to ballroom dancing as ice is to hockey. You can no longer, you couldn't imagine telling a hockey club to go out and rent roller skates to use a vinyl floor. It's almost the same for ballroom dancing. Vinyl, if it's not waxed, is too grippy, and you end up with knee injuries. It physically inhibits dancing, and if it is waxed, it can become dangerously slippery. So my understanding is that the proposal for Bevin is an unwaxed product, which is easier to maintain, but basically you can't dance on it. I'd like to point out that the large hardwood floor is a strategic advantage for the city. It's enabled us to hold the Island Fantasy Ball for the last 19 years, and it is the largest hardwood floor on Vancouver Island until now. The Island Fantasy Ball is a large event. We have over 600 people come. It hosts the best dancers in BC and across Canada. We have invited people from around the world who've come and competed and make a major attraction for people who are interested in dancing. It's a cultural showpiece, an inspiration to local dancers, and a destination for tourism for that weekend. Economically, we contribute something like $50,000 a year directly through the IFB, and another similar amount, probably more, in indirect economic benefits. I'd like to point out in the early years, we did invite the mayor to come and give an opening address at the Island Fantasy Ball. I wish that tradition had continued. You would have seen the party firsthand more often.
Oh, just send me the invitation. I'll be there.
One of your predecessors stopped coming, and that's where the invitation stopped coming up. So, 2 years ago, there was a consultation program to talk about the Bevan Park redevelopment, and we participated in that, made recommendations to upgrading the lighting focused on the floor where our event happens, as opposed to on the stage where it was originally designed, and also the consultants who facilitated that process went one step further and suggested that the floor should be upgraded to a sprung floor, which would be fantastic. The actual development has not followed those recommendations. The lighting has been degraded to what I would call cafeteria-style fluorescent lights, not nearly the aesthetics that we'd looked for. In fact, as bright as we can get it without using the fluorescence is now darker than it used to be. And now the plan to downgrade the floor to hospital-style vinyl, which I appreciate is now deferred for a year. The reason given by staff is that they want to save money on maintenance and save money on replacing the aging hardwood floor. considerations that we see, that the vinyl floor is not suitable for dancing. I mentioned before it causes knee injuries and prevents us from doing the dance figures. We would not get the sanctioning we need to hold a competition there. To rent a portable floor that would be approvable would be on the order of $10,000 per event and require extra days for setup and removal for each event. In contrast, refurbishing the existing floor would only cost something like $15,000, but that would last you for another 10 years. And annual maintenance cost is not really much different than with the vinyl. I guess we believe that the business case for keeping the hardwood is not nearly as bad as it might appear, that when the whole community is taken into account and all the uses of the floor, in fact, there's a value to the community of keeping the hardwood. One of the things that we're most concerned about is there seems to be a fundamental change of use from community social events to commercial display purposes at Bevan, and that will adversely affect the social, in particular the ballroom dancing functions, to the benefit of commercial interests. So we would point out that a user pay principle would mean that the people with the messy exhibits should rent their own containment to protect the floor, rather than put the onus on the people who would use the existing floor to rent their own floor to replace the floor that's already there. So our argument is that there hasn't been adequate consultation with the community on that change of use of the facility, and in particular on the loss of the hardwood floor. And just to indicate the level of public support, I've been flooded with emails and so on. We put out a petition for 2 days during our last Island Fantasy Ball and got over 600 signatures, which come from not just around Nanaimo, but across BC, across Canada, in fact, from USA and Europe. And the petition is still going around. So our appeal to the council is, well, first of all, that we are willing to, Ballroom Dance Society is willing to work with Parks, Recreation and Culture to raise funds to help pay for the cost of the hardwood floor. We can do fundraising. We can hold, a lot of community groups hold dances for fundraising purposes. We're kind of experts in holding dances, although we're trying to be nonprofit. It isn't our objective to raise money with them. We could easily convert a dance such as the Christmas dance we have planned at Bevan to sell square meters of hardwood floor to donors to help pay for a new hardwood floor, if that's the direction we can go. So we're asking council to take action to preserve the hardwood floor at Bevan, to consult with the community before changing the use of the Bevan Centre away from the existing hardwood floor and towards vinyl, basically to benefit commercial interests. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, sir. We have a few for you, but just to staff, am I correct that this has been delayed for approximately a year for the decision process?
That's correct, Your Worship, and Mr. Mayor has raised lots of good partnership ideas that I fully expect will be discussed between him and the Parks and Rec Commission and staff over the next few weeks and months, so I think that's great.
Okay, a number of questions for you. We have Councillor Councillor Oldham, and then Councillor Unger, Councillor Beswick, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've been told that the floor is pretty well near the end of its life. You're talking about renovation or replacement with hardwood?
Either. We have people in our membership who have floor maintenance experience working for the school district for many years. Their view is that the floor is not in any serious danger. We've consulted with the person who laid that floor and has refurbished it on at least 3 occasions, and his report was that the concrete underneath the floor is an uneven surface. Every time it's sanded, you have to replace some of the tiles because they're so thin. But even with that, replacing some of the tiles that are too thin, the ones every 10 years maintenance would be on the order of $15,000. And that's the kind of thing we'd be happy to do fundraising to help support.
Yes, that sounds interesting. Have you had the opportunity to make a presentation to the Parks, Recreation and Culture Commission?
We received a suggestion to do that after I'd made the request to appear here, and I'd be happy to do that, to explore these kind of things in more detail with them.
Yeah, I think that would really be worthwhile. Thank you.
I agree, yeah. Thank you. Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have attended the annual ball, and I found it to be a very, very enjoyable evening. And I think for the young and not so young, it's a tremendous night out of good entertainment. The one-year delay will allow us to revisit this and give it a lot of thought and get all the pros and cons weighed before any decision is made. So that decision was just made recently to delay it for a year, but that gives us the time to look at all the aspects.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two more questions. Councillor Bestick.
Thank you, Richard.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and the efforts that you've made to bring this before us, and I'm delighted that it's been postponed for a year. I would just ask the question that on the Island Fantasy Ball, 600 people attend that particular event?
There was more than 600 between the Saturday and Sunday. I think we had, I forget the total number, but something like 700 people altogether, different people.
Thank you. And clearly many of them travel to Nanaimo and spend 2 or 3 days, nights in Nanaimo while they're here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnstone, and also Councillor Johnstone is the Chair of Parks and Recreation Culture.
And just a fun question for you, Mr. Mayor. This past week, I was in attendance at a provincial seminar for Parks, Recreation and Culture, and I spoke with a supplier of vinyl, just because I wanted to chat with him a bit about the possibility of us replacing our floor. And he was quite dismayed that ballroom dancers would not be able to do competitive dancing on vinyl. So I invited him to bring a large piece, a huge piece, over to Nanaimo, which he has agreed to do in consultation with Mary Smith, the manager of that facility. And I'd like to invite you, when it arrives, to come with a partner and just test it out to see if it's at all possible. He had over 30 different types of vinyl, and they quite look like hardwood and feel like hardwood. They're not spongy or sticky, some of them. So
they look like hardwood.
They do look like hardwood.
That could fool some people.
Yeah.
The particular product that Mary Smith told me they were going to install is supplied by a company in Vancouver, and I was told that it's already installed in the hospital in Nanaimo and a couple around Vancouver. So we could.
No, it's quite amazing. It looks just like hardwood. But anyway, when it comes, we'll have you come and have a little dance on it.
Thank you, sir. It's a great topic, and we're going to have a year to look at this thing and come up with a solution, and we will. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Receipt of the delegation.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next thing is we have a presentation now, and before I invite him down, I just want to comment on the fact that the recently retired Superintendent Jeff Lott has served Nanaimo, I think, twice actually during his career with the RCM Police, and I want to say that he has done not only an outstanding job for the citizens of Nanaimo, but he is a very charismatic person, totally responsive to the needs of the community. He seems to have a huge amount of respect from the men and women of the RCMP Nanaimo detachment and other detachments I'm sure he's served in, and I think he really exemplifies exactly what we're looking for in a chief police officer as a chief for Nanaimo, and he's done an outstanding job. We have a new replacement in who has excellent credentials as well, and we think that the new superintendent will do an outstanding job as well. But we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge specifically by way of a presentation, and so I will ask former Superintendent Jeff Lott if he'd like to step forward, and we have something for him. And is there a... Should we do it in front here? That is it heavy or is it? All right. Hey, now, which side? Would you like to take one end here? That would be. Take one end. Okay. And do you want me to take? Sure. Yeah, maybe we'll bring it over here. I've got things back. And So, I would just like to read, if this is on, thank you, Cam. Superintendent J.S. Lott, in recognition of your leadership and dedication to the public safety in Nanaimo, RCMP detachment, and it's 2001 July 16 to 2011 March 31. Superintendent, appreciate all your help.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to thank the City of Nanaimo Mayor and Council for this very unexpected presentation. It was a pleasure for me to finish off my service here in Nanaimo, almost of 10 years of policing. The one thing that I found upon arriving here is that the strong support from Mayor and Council and staff for advancing creative and innovative ideas in improving safety in the community, and we leading edge, I must say. And when I talked to my other chiefs of police throughout the province, they were always amazed at the support that our detachment had here and the community had by way of the city. So thank you to Mayor and Council and to staff for all your support over those many years. Thank you.
You can actually take that now. Anyway, I was a little bit concerned that the delivery person was a little bit late, and I thought we might have to sing and dance until he arrived. But thank you, Mr. Swaby. No names, of course. Now, the next item I have is a presentation. Actually, it's more of an acknowledgement of a presentation, I guess. And I don't know if many people had a chance to see the media today on the 16th, but late last week we were advised that the Canadian Institute of Planners, CIP, which is a not-for-profit organization, held a contest, basically, and from more than 6,000 nominations across Canada, and taking over 4 months to process all this information. We were ecstatic to learn that Commercial Street in downtown Nanaimo is the winner of the category Canada's Greatest Streets. So first place, greatest in the Great Places of Canada competition. So let's hear it for Commercial Street. And I, at this time, would like to acknowledge previous mayors and council that worked very hard through revitalization, starting in the early 80s, to change the downtown. And a number of people will recall that when the so-called big box stores went north, they were concerned that Nanaimo was finished. And, you know, the DNBIA, Downtown Nanaimo Partnership, and other groups have worked tirelessly to change that attitude. And really, we owe a huge debt to all the merchants that stayed with it. And there's a couple of chartered banks in downtown Nanaimo that stayed the course. They could have moved, they didn't. And you know, Nanaimo is as strong as its weakest link. And I tell you, we've got some incredibly strong links downtown. And I'm so proud to receive this award on behalf of council. Thank you very much. Councillor Sherry.
When you started, Your Worship, as it relates to past councils and the cooperation of the merchants and that. I was first elected in November 1980, and that was the start of revitalization of communities throughout the whole province. The then mayor of the day, Frank Ney, and all the members of council went down to Victoria to the legislature, and Bill Vander Zalm happened to be the minister in charge of municipal affairs at that day. And first year on council, Frank had put me as the chairman of the Advisory Planning Committee. So we get into Mr. Van der Zam's office, and he introduces all members of council, and he says, Alderman Sherry has a request to you. Well, you had no idea, because Frank used to drop these things on the deal. And thank goodness Mr. Van der Zam had a very good friend within the community that was a downtown merchant by the name of Mr. Zorkin. So we had the ins there, and it was my duty as a member of council to throw the pitch to Mr. Van der Zam to get the revitalization money for the downtown. So it's proven its worth, and 30 years later, we're still going strong.
Well, good for you.
There was no problem in getting the check, and it didn't bounce either.
That had, are you on here? Yeah. Well, push the button. It says Councillor Sherry that you have to push that little wee button again here. Thank you. Councillor Unger.
Thank you. I haven't been here since 1980, like Councillor Sherry, although he was here even a lot longer than that. But when I moved to Nanaimo, my first assignment for the Daily Free Press was to cover downtown revitalization. So I've been involved in that for some years. I just want to congratulate the business owners and the various programs like the revitalization and the Heritage Facade program and others. And at this point, I'd like to recognize the members of the Downtown Business Improvement Area. They're in the audience, led by Shari Mulchin, the president of the Downtown Business.
Why don't we ask them to stand?
Yes, please stand.
Well done. Thank you very much for, and again to the DNBIA. This organization has been going for many, many years and continues to work miracles in the downtown, all with volunteer help. And with your work and cooperation, and with the merchants around you too, downtown is going to go. There's no two ways about it. And I really want to express my appreciation for all that you do.
She needs to be recognized.
All right, Corey, you have to stand up again then. Corey, stand up, please. Thank you. Okay, we've got proclamations, and the first proclamation is that 2011, May 28th, is Jumpstart Day in the city of Nanaimo, and that 2011, May 29th, is the Day of the Honeybee in the city of Nanaimo, and I so proclaim those two. We'll go into commission reports, Parks, Recreation, Culture Commission minutes of the meeting held 2011, March 23rd. Recommendation that council receive the minutes of the Parks, Recreation, Culture Commission meeting held March 23rd, 2011. Seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Committee reports, Transportation Advisory Committee minutes of the meeting held April 7th, 2011. The committee's recommendation that council receive the minutes of the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting held April 7th, 2011. Move receipt. Move receipt. Seconder. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving down into staff reports, Community Safety and Development, Heritage Facade grant approval. Nash Hardware. Staff's recommendation that council approve a $10,000 Heritage Facade grant for the manufacture and installation of a metal awning and signage on the Nash Hardware building located at 19 Commercial Street, subject to the conditions specified in the report.
On behalf of the Heritage Advisory Committee, Mr. Chairman, I move the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sherry. Is there a second? Thank you. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we'll move into report of the public hearing held 2011 May 5 for bylaw number 6500.015. Staff recommendation council receive a report and minutes of the public hearing held Thursday 2011 May 5 for bylaw 6500.015.
Staff recommendation.
Second. I see no question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Bylaw for abandonment. Staff recommendation that council receive the report pertaining to the abandoning of the following zoning amendment bylaws, which are presented under the bylaw section section of the agenda. The first one is zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2011, number 4000.503. And I think I don't think we need to do these seriatim. I think we'll just list all three and ask for somebody to, sorry? The second. Okay, sorry. You want to do them individually? No. Okay. Second one, zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2011, number 4000.504, and zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2011, number 4000.507.
With the receipt of the report.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Overleaf on to page 4. Amendments to the licensing and control of animal bylaw. Pardon me. Staff recommendation that council receive the report pertaining to the licensing and control of animals amendment bylaw 2010 number 4923.08, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda.
We've received the report.
Seconder? Second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Plan and IMO Advisory Committee, PNAC, recommendation that council support amendment of the licensing and control of animals bylaw 1995, number 4923, to allow the keeping of up to four chickens, excluding roosters or ducks on properties of less than 450 square meters or 4,843.76 square feet in area, and 2, up to 6 chickens or ducks, excluding roosters, on properties from 450 square meters or 4,843.76 feet to less than 1 acre or 0.04 hectares in area.
We received the report because that was what we had done.
That's correct. Okay. So we're just going to continue on. You want to vote on this one too? Or this? Okay. So we'll go into the DP 676 at 4745. What did we do on that? We voted on it. It was, I don't know why it's duplicated on here. But, oh, it is. Sorry. Okay. So was there a mover and second? Did you?
Your Worship, we're going to deal with it under the bylaw section anyway, so.
The first.
Ms. Harrison?
Your Worship, when there's been a recommendation from Plan and IMO Advisory Committee, we provide it for council just to know that
no
the committee
at this point until it comes back.
agrees with the staff recommendation, and that's what this one does.
Thank you. DP 676 at 4745 Ledgerwood Road. Staff recommendation that council issue development permit number DP 656 at 4745 Ledgerwood Road with the following variances. Rear yard setback variance of 1.73 meters or 5.68 feet. Front yard setback variance of 3.6 meters or 11.8 feet. And parking variance to permit 25 stacked parking spaces to count towards required parking. Moved and seconded. Councillor Sherry.
Mr. Chairman, in the report they identify these drive-through parking and that, and those will all be addressed on the final approval?
Yes, Your Worship. Staff is satisfied with the proposal by the applicant, and it's all going to be addressed as part of the approval. It's already been addressed through a covenant, and it'll be addressed at the final stages in the building permit.
And the covenant will be registered prior to it coming back?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like some clarification, if I could, please, Your Worship, from staff on how stacked parking is allowable and how it could work. I understand it's for 2 or 3 bedroom units, but how does stacked parking work?
Your Worship, this is not a normal situation, but it's not one that we're not willing to undertake, especially when there's ownership of the spaces that can be delegated for the units, and it's up to those people to establish within their own household how they'll use the parking spaces. And really, this is a project that's proposing all underground parking. It's high quality in terms of providing the parking underground. It's promoting other ways, modes of transportation other than the vehicle, and this is just one more step towards greening by limiting the amount of parking that you provide. So it's up to the bottom line is it's up to the individual management and the ownership of the project to ensure that the spaces are allocated, and there'll be 2 per some of the units, which will be stacked, so they'll have to stack their cars as they see fit.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Any follow-up? No follow-up? Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. As a member of the Transportation Advisory Committee and many other previous projects that we've discussed about reducing parking requirements in favor of other modes of transportation, and the manner in which we market properties. And on that Transportation Advisory Committee in our official community plan is an identification of electric vehicle plug-ins for the future, as it seems to be a considerable wave of the future. And there are other cities that are embarking or have already embarked on providing the hardware, if you will, or the wiring for future projects whereby parking is a concern or an issue. And with making that green step, we're taking another step forward to provide plug-ins for recharging of electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles in the future. And I'm wondering if any discussion or consideration for projects of this magnitude, 114 units, are being undertaken at the planning stage.
Your Worship, there currently isn't any in this proposal, although in the zoning bylaw, the new zoning bylaw, we are looking for ways that don't impinge or confront provincial regulations in a way that we can't achieve electric plug-ins. But currently, in this project, there isn't any, but we are looking at that with the future zoning bylaw.
Then, may I, Your Worship, may I just, I'm not suggesting that we enforce this at this stage. However, it may be a consideration for discussions with this proponent and future proponents to take into consideration. I would encourage that to take place.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Councillor Oldham.
Yeah, me too. I'd like to encourage that, and also to suggest something that came up at our Transportation Committee meeting, which was encouraging builders of projects like this to at least put in the conduits for that kind of wiring. Even if they don't put in the wiring itself, it's at least much easier to do later on if it's required.
No comment?
Your Worship,
necessary.
Your Worship, they're all good comments and they're duly noted, and we're certainly working towards any way we can to green the community.
Thank you, Mr. Sweetie. Next item is DP. Oh, sorry, yeah, question on the motion now. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Sherry. That I could feel that twisting coming here there. DP 700 at 440 Wakesai Avenue. Staff's recommendation that Council issue development permit DP 700 at 440 Wakesai Avenue with the following variances: a setback, front yard setback variance of 2.3 meters to 7.5 feet, a north side yard variance of 0.15 meters or 0.5 feet, a north property line fence retaining wall height variance of 2.27 meters or 7.75 feet, a parking lot surface variance, and a parking lot ratio of 0.41 spaces per bed or 15 parking spaces. Okay. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. DP 720, 5154 Fillinger Crescent. Staff recommendation the Council issue development permit number DP 720 at 5154 Fillinger Crescent to reduce the Schedule G leave strip to be concurrent with the northern edge of the right-of-way plan 3696 RW. Seconder? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And DVP 169, 1956 Zorkin Road. It's requested that Council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 169. And staff recommendation that Council issue development variance permit DVP 169 at 1956 Zorkin Road. Is there anyone in attendance that come down, sir? You might have to tip the microphone up just ever so slightly. That's as far as it goes. I'm sorry.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. In opening, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Brian Potenche, base manager for CR Seaplanes. CR has been in business in Nanaimo for over 5 years now and in business for over 30 years. CR Seaplanes operates daily service to the Lower Mainland from its terminal at 1956 Zorkin Road. We are proud to offer this service to the people of Vancouver Island and move thousands of people on our floatplanes each year through our small terminal at Brecon Point. Sea Air is in the process of applying for an expansion to its water lot, and that would see new concrete docks installed. This will showcase the city to arriving passengers from the Sunshine Coast, Lower Mainland, and many U.S. arrivals that clear Canada Customs at our facility. The challenge we have had over the years is being seen down in the lower corner of Brecon Point. By the lay of the land in this area, the terminal sits below the grade of the lands surrounding it. The signs we currently have on the building need to be placed in the gable ends of the building so they can be seen from Zorkin Road. The need for the pole sign on the southwest corner of our lot would be to assist our customers in finding our building that is obscured by the surrounding lands. On June 21st, 2010, CRC Plains presented to Mayor and Council of the City of Nanaimo a request for a variance to the city's sign bylaw. CR was represented by Tim McLean of Seacon Signs Limited. Tim chose to challenge the city's interpretation of how to determine the square footage of a face sign. I feel this led to a confusion and ultimately the denial of the variance permit. Since that time, I have been in contact with the city's planning department and have worked hard with Dave Patey, Jeremy Holm, and Bill Corson in coming up with a solution to our needs for a pole sign that will assist customers to find CRC Plains. The original sign that we proposed was a total of 15.05 square meters. The new sign that we propose will be 14.12 square meters. This is a reduction of just over 6%. The reason we need the sign is that this size is the fact that the targeted viewer of the sign is approximately 300 meters away from the intersection of Brecon Point, Brecon Road, Zorkin Road, and Stewart Avenue. In closing, I hope the Council will consider our request and realize that in this case, we have a unique situation. Sierra looks forward to continued success in the aviation industry here in Nanaimo and will work hard to supply first-class service to visitors and residents of Nanaimo and Vancouver Island. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. I don't see any questions, but I just want to mention, I understand that your service is now going to be, as well as the airport, you're going to be flying directly into Vancouver Harbour as well.
Yes, we're very excited about the new route that we're going to offer, and that starts May 25th.
Good. I think you'll find, support in principle, and I would just mention, I'm going to steal Councillor Beswick's thunder, but Councillor Beswick was the one I think that first identified the sign issue, and if you'll pardon the pun, stick-handled his way through to the surface with this one. So, okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, well, he certainly can. Who says he can't? Anyway, Councillor Beswick, did you want to enter in here?
I don't have any questions or anything for the delegation, if that's what you're...
Yeah, no, this is not for the delegation. Okay, this will come up for a vote very shortly. Councillor Johnson, do you have something?
I was just going to ask if the wayfinding signs have helped you that the city has assisted you with.
They're not ideal. I've spoken with Dave Patey, and we've discussed how to tweak them a little bit more. They're not quite right at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just another one, Your Worship. We had a question at the last meeting about the windsock. Is that an official windsock, or is it a...
Yes, it would be. There is one windsock that is provided by Parks and Rec in the area, but it's so low that it doesn't give a proper wind reading with other obstacles in the way. Mm-hmm. This one would be on top of the sign and give the pilots that are coming down Newcastle Channel on their approach to Departure Bay a very visible reading of the wind at that time, and we find it very important to have. Good. Because we're always monitoring the winds at that approach when the plane's, it's coming in at over 100 miles an hour. We're looking at every possible way. Like lots of times when we don't have a windsock, we're using other areas, like we're using trees, we're using flags in a nearby area to read the winds. This would greatly, increase the ability to read the winds at that time.
Thank you.
Brian, is there any requirement by DOT for windsocks, or is this something that you can do without?
No, it just makes it like I say, we're using everything we can, flags, trees, reading the water, how the ripples are in the water, so it just adds to the ability to read the wind.
No, that's great. Yeah. Thank you, sir. We see no questions.
Move to the delegation.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Are you looking for a recommendation?
Yes.
Well, although there's only 8 of us, Your Worship, I'm certainly hoping that the circumstance of the sign issue where it's a tie vote, I would like to the council issued development variance permit PVP 1691956 Zorkin Road.
Second, okay. Now, I see no discussion on this one. I think we beat it into the ground. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Good heavens, it's in there. Does anyone need a recorded vote on this? Let's move along into property maintenance.
Don't push your button.
Yeah, that's coming. Property maintenance bylaw 1990, number 3704, is requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to property maintenance at the properties listed below, and the staff recommendation that council, pursuant to property maintenance bylaw 1990, number 3704, direct the owners of the following properties to remove the material as listed below from the premises within 14 days, where the work will be done by the city or its agents at the owner's cost. First property is 2302 Kingsford Place. Discarded lumber, plastic, construction material, and miscellaneous debris. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 2302 Kingsford Place? The next property is 2 and 3 have been struck. 432 Howard Avenue, mattresses, bedding, discarded furniture, household garbage, and miscellaneous debris. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 432 Howard Avenue? And the third and final one is 34 Nickel Street, tree cuttings, garbage, and miscellaneous debris. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 34 Nickel Street? Hearing none.
Move the staff recommendation as it relates to all these properties.
Second. No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Unsafe structure, 432 Howard Avenue. Staff recommendation that council, pursuant to section 7.3 of the community charter, direct the owner of 432 Howard Avenue to secure the building to City of Nanaimo standards.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Unresolved building deficiencies, notice on title, section 5.7. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies for the property listed below, and the staff recommendation of council by resolution instruct the manager of legislative services to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting the property listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia under section 5.7 of the community charter, and that property is 3743 Caldwell Street, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 3743 Caldwell Street? Caldwell Street.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Corporate Services, Regional District of Nanaimo Pump and Haul Local Service. Amendment Bylaw 975.22, 2011. Staff recommendation that council waive the consent requirements under section 801.4 of the Local Government Act by consenting to the adoption of the Regional District of Nanaimo Pump and Haul Local Service Amendment Bylaw 975.55, 2011, and that the Regional District of Nanaimo be notified accordingly.
Move the waiver.
Move the waiver. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have 2 information items.
Move receipt of the information only item.
Okay. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Is there any business arising from the information that people or questions on it? We'll move into reconsideration of bylaws, and these will be moved by Councillor Johnson. Acting Mayor, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Move that zoning bylaw, amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.449, RA 207, to rezone 1190 and 1192 Seafield Crescent from residential duplex zone RM1 to public institution zone P2 in order to permit the use of administrative office be adopted.
Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.481 RA 241 to rezone part of 2256 Meredith Road from single-family residential zone RS1 to medium-density multiple-family residential suburban zone RM5 and residential triplex and quadruplex zone RM2 to facilitate subdivision and development of multifamily dwellings be adopted.
Is there a seconder? Seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.494 RA 257 to rezone 1905, 1913, 1917, and 1921 Northfield Road from single-family residential zone RS1 to public institution zone P2 in order to facilitate the development of a personal care facility, Nanaimo Travelers Lodge, be adopted.
adopted.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.499 RA 262 to rezone part of 2469 Labio Road and 2368 Barclay Road from single-family residential zone RS1 and single-family mobile home residential zone RS3 to low-density multiple-family residential townhouse zone RM3 in order to facilitate the construction of a multi-family development be adopted.
Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Sherry opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.503 RA 274 to rezone 952 Wentworth Street from single-family residential zone RS1 to single-family residential small lot zone RS6 in order to facilitate subdivision of the lot be abandoned.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.504 RA 277 to rezone 368 Hillcrest Avenue from single-family residential zone RS.-1A to residential duplex zone RM1 in order to facilitate construction of 2 duplex lots be abandoned.
Second motion. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.507 RA 276 to rezone part of 6414 Portsmouth Road from single-family residential zone RS1 to residential triplex and quadruplex zone RM2 in order to facilitate subdivision of the lot and construction of a triplex be abandoned.
Second motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.508 RA 273 3440 Shenton Road to add a site-specific text amendment to the light industrial zone 1-2 to permit the use of automotive sales and rentals be adopted.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That official community plan amendment bylaw 2011 number 6500.015 OCP 53 to include the Newcastle and Brecon neighborhood plan within the official community plan pass third reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Sherry, you have...
To you, Mr. Chairman, to staff. At the public hearing, there was much discussion as to how many stories, 3 or 4 stories, as it relates to this. Has this problem been resolved, and is it identified within?
Your Worship, yes. I believe that staff has addressed all the issues related to that. I would just, however, remind Council that part of your motion, of course, was that that individual applications be reviewed on their own merits for rezoning applications that go above 4 stories, but that your direction was that within the plan, 4 stories be the maximum that the plan recognizes until an application comes in on a site-specific basis, and that's been all taken care of.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Oldham.
Yes, Your Worship. At the same public hearing, one of the delegations wondered why, or in fact opposed the deletion of a sentence in one of the guiding principle statements regarding the protection of views in the area. And staff's response was that it wasn't necessary because it would be redundant. And I remember my comment was I'd rather have redundancy rather than confusion. So I'm just wondering if staff has had an opportunity to reinsert that sentence.
Your Worship, we wouldn't reinsert anything without a motion from Council following the public hearing, but I would tend to concur with you that although it may be redundant, it also provides, if it's the schedule I'm thinking of, view corridors for the neighborhood that would be used in the future if you did want to evaluate how an application above 4 stories would go.
Yes, Your Worship, I wasn't referring to the site corridors and so on that we developed during the development of the neighborhood plan, but just to that one guiding statement that I think arose in the official community plan in any event. Okay, well, if that hasn't been done, if we move to amend to reinsert that sentence, would that constitute a change that would have to return the plan to public hearing? Okay, then, Your Worship, I would move that we amend the motion on the floor to reinsert the sentence mentioned at the public hearing concerning the guiding principle on views.
Okay. Ms. Harrison, do you want to have a little consultation over there?
No, I don't. I thought.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I hadn't had an opportunity to discuss this with Mr. Swaby, but I did discuss this with Bruce Anderson last week, and he had a suggestion if this came forward. And on page 201 of your agenda package, subsection 8 of bylaw 6500.014, the changes that Bruce had suggested you could make at this time. Section 8 would say, Section 7.4, Development Permit Areas, Area 6, Stewart Avenue Corridor, DPA 6 guidelines is amended as follows. A, delete subsection 1 in its entirety and replace with the following. Development permits within the boundaries of the Newcastle and Brecon Neighbourhood Plan shall be in accordance with the Newcastle and Brecon Neighbourhood Plan, Urban Design Framework, and guidelines which form part of the plan. B, insert the following as subsection 2. The height of buildings should not interfere with the view of the residents living above the Stewart Avenue corridor. And C, renumber subsequent subsections accordingly.
Okay, I'm seeking guidance from staff. Does that achieve the same purpose as what was called a guiding principle in the previous document? Or does this seems to be more specific than what the delegation at the public hearing was referring to, but I seek your advice on that.
Your Worship, I agree that it's tough to know because you've been to a public hearing, and if you're requesting something specific to a delegation and this is causing confusion for you, I would not do it, and I would go back to a public hearing.
Well,
my suggestion following yours was if you wanted to delete it, that's fine, and we would just renumber it accordingly.
Your Worship,
but I can't comment because I can't speak for the delegation whether this does or doesn't meet their needs that you heard.
Well, Your Worship, the delegation's point was recorded in the minutes for the public hearing, and I read it, and it was clear from the person who made the suggestion was Nancy Mitchell, so her comments are what I'm referring to. I'm sorry that I don't have the exact wording in front of me because I assumed that staff would have made that change. But all we're talking about is reinserting a statement within a guiding principle rather than within trying to restrict the development permits, I think.
Your Worship, it might help. Councillor Hold'em, page 57 provides the minutes and identifies what Ms. Mitchell said.
Yes.
And maybe that'll give some context for how you would like. And we could Ms. Harrison could reread the amendment and you could decide whether you think it meets that need.
Thank you.
Yeah, got it.
You're on.
I believe it's the second paragraph.
Page 57, which paragraph?
Second paragraph. Ms. Mitchell noted that before she can give full approval to the plan, the sentence, the height of the building should not interfere with the view of residents along Stewart Avenue corridor should remain as a guideline.
As a guideline.
So I would interpret what Mr. Anderson is doing to as a proposal meets that objective.
Yes. Okay, so if staff is advised to accomplish what the delegation said, to do what the changes recommended by Mr. Anderson, that would do it. I would so move.
Okay, and Councillor second that. Okay, we have some more discussion now. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. This is...
Well, so I'm moving item Sorry.
Okay, so this will be on the amendment then?
Yeah, so I wasn't speaking to the amendment, so if you'd like to vote on this.
Okay, maybe we should, unless there's any speakers on the amendment. And you have, Ms. Harrison, the amendment, and you're quite happy with it? You don't need, maybe you just read it for the clarity of those that are at home as well.
Okay, I'll read the entire section again. So it's Section 8. Section 7.4, Development Permit Areas, Area 6, Stewart Avenue Corridor, DPA 6, Guidelines is amended as follows. A, delete subsection 1 in its entirety and replace with the following. 1. Development permits within the boundaries of the Newcastle and Brecon Neighbourhood Plan shall be in accordance with the Newcastle and Brecon Neighbourhood Plan Urban Design Framework and guidelines which form part of the plan. B. Insert the following as subsection 2. The height of buildings should not interfere with the view of the residents living above the Stewart Avenue corridor. And C. Renumber subsequent subsections accordingly.
Councillor Kipp, you've seconded one? Okay, on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Unger opposed, balanced council in favor. The amendment passes, and then we'll move back to the main motion on that. And that's been, Ms. Harrison moved and seconded on the main motion. And so we will, sorry?
No, I'd like to speak.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. That's what you're on. Sorry.
Thank you. So when we speak to the 4 stories, we're speaking to 4 stories above Stewart Avenue. We're not talking 4 stories total necessarily, and if those 4 stories are above Stewart Avenue, and if those 4 stories, which is permissible, has a corridor view disturbance, what is our position?
Your Worship, the plan is a guideline for future applications. The existing zoning, unless Council decides to change it, would provide for the height restrictions on a property. The guiding principle, though, in the future, if someone came in with a project that was larger than 4 stories from Stewart Avenue, you're correct, then Council, based on the plan, would evaluate the impact that height has on the properties that are upland from it, as one of the criteria on whether you'd approve it or not approve it.
Thank you. So that's above 4 stories from Stewart Avenue, but not, so they don't, there's no variance required. 4 stories, fine, no problem, under any circumstances.
That's what the plan is recommending, 4 stories above Stewart Avenue, yes.
Thank you. And is there, when we talk 4 stories, is there story heights? So the question being, is that 10-foot stories, or is that 11-foot? Is that 8-foot? And I'm not trying to dance on the head of a pin, but there's many projects that have higher ceilings that are extremely attractive that may only be 4 stories, but are higher than what we would measure. And I think the Hawthorne department projects have had different height measurement tools.
Your Worship, you're quite correct that stories can take on various heights. Under the current zoning, if something was above the height regulation, we'd bring it forward potentially as a variance application if it was minor and Council could adjudicate whether that impacted the views and whether it was supportable. And then if it was a rezoning application because it was more than 4 stories from Stewart Avenue, regardless of the heights of the habitable space inside, that same issue would apply for Council. So under the current zoning, they can have any height, ceiling heights they want, but they still have to be within the overall height requirement of the zone. And if it's above that, we'd bring it to Council as a variance.
And my last question then, Your Worship, what is the overall height capacity?
Your Worship, currently, I don't have that in front of me, but I can look it up and report back to Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Unger.
Yeah, this requires some clarification now. We're talking about above Stewart Avenue. Do you mean the west side of Stewart Avenue as opposed to the east side and the waterfront?
I believe the way the zoning bylaw is worded, I believe, is the frontage of the property, so along the immediate frontage.
That still doesn't answer the east side of Stewart Avenue, all the waterfront property. Is there a restriction on heights there?
Depending on all of them have a restriction on height in the current zoning that they have from the zoning bylaw, yes.
And what would that be?
It varies. Single family is 29 feet from natural grade. And the multifamily, I'm not sure exactly. It might be 9 meters or above natural grade. So it is different because they're different zones.
Thank you.
Okay. So, on the main motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Unger opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. Continue on, please.
Yes, that official community plan amendment bylaw 2011 number 6500.015 be adopted as amended.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Unger opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
That Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Amendment Bylaw 2011 number 7024.01 to designate the position of Steno Legislative Services Claims FOI as the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Coordinator for the municipality be adopted.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That Fire Protection and Life Safety Regulation Bylaw 2011 number 7108 to regulate fire protection and life safety and provide emergency services be adopted.
Is there a seconder? Second. Moved and seconded. I see all those in favor. Opposed? Motion carries. I might just point out that earlier today, Councillor Kipp had reminded us of some of the disasters that are taking place in northern Alberta and some of the flooding in the prairies. So I think fire protection and life safety regulation bylaws are extremely important, and I hope everyone takes the time to ensure that they have the proper safety devices in their own home. And introduction of bylaws.
Yes, Your Worship, that Licensing and Control of Animals Amendments Bylaw 2011 number 4923.08 to allow the keeping of up to 4 chickens, excluding roosters, or ducks on properties less than 450 square meters, 4843.76 square feet in area, and up to 6 chickens or ducks, excluding roosters, on properties from 450 square meters, 4,843.76 square feet, to less than 1 acre, 0.4 hectares in area, pass first reading.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Unger opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
That Licensing and Control of Animals Amendment Bylaw 2011 number 4923.08 pass second reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Unger opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
That Licensing and Control of Animals Amendment Bylaw 2011 number 4923.08 pass third reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Unger is opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. The introduction of development bylaws, bylaw status sheet under correspondence.
We've received the correspondence.
Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving into council appointments, ratification of appointments to the Social Planning Advisory Committee. The recommendation that council ratified the appointments of Ms. Terry Flower and Ms. Linda McCandless as the 2 community at-large members to fill vacancies on the Social Planning Advisory Committee, or SPAC. Seconder, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And we move down now into the question period for agenda items only.
Fred Taylor, 204 Emery Way. May I ask, in your blue pages 48 and 49, dealing with a canopy sign on the front, I believe, of Nash Hardware, is that correct in saying Terminal Avenue below the sign, or should it be Commercial Street? on page 49.
I think the confusion.
Two locations.
Yeah.
One is for the front fascia and one's for the back door.
So there's two.
There's two, yeah, on each street.
And they both